Hello, hello, hello. It's Lisa Copeland, and I am so excited today. I have got one of the top influencers, top agents in the United States. I shouldn't say agent, commercial brokers out of Dallas, Texas, Pam Goodwin. She's my friend. She's my business partner. She's somebody I trust immensely. Her and I have done deals together. She's an absolute authority in this space. But more importantly, or as importantly, she's passionate in helping women um, make millions of dollars in real estate. Her niche is commercial. That's how she and I got involved in the beginning, because we have done some commercial deals together, because we all know, or if you don't know this, there's more money to be made in commercial than there is in residential, but you've got to work with an expert. You've got to work with somebody who knows this stuff inside and out. So I will not do a commercial deal myself until I've either partnered with Pam or, run it past Pam. So Pam, welcome to Real Estate Her Way. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that super nice introduction.
Well,
As you
you
know,
just got a huge award. I mean, today, you were named the Commercial Real Estate uh, and Influencer Award. So you're at number three. Is that in the country?
right. That's in the country. I was number 13 and now number three. So I'm slowly working. I'm almost number one. So it all is based off of, social media posts and impressions and people reading your content. So I'm very
Well,
grateful
and
for
and
that.
because you put out content that matters, number one, you share your own success stories. You're somebody who's credible in the space. You're somebody that people believe when you put something out. So of course they pay. I pay attention to it every time you put something out. I pay attention to it. How long have you been a commercial broker? Tell us a little bit about your journey into stardom.
Well, thank you. I have a degree in interior design, so I've just been recently going, how did an interior designer from Omaha, Nebraska become an investor in real estate? And
Yes,
now,
our audience wants to know.
and so now I started off in a large shopping center development, which means I only used my interior design degree for 1 year doing office interiors, and then went into, I always believe in working. If you want to learn from the best, you have to go work, at first for the best. And so I sought out the number one shopping center development company out of San Diego and was developing large shopping centers and more on the tenant retail construction side. And then later on in my career, went to go work on the tenant side, developing, as we all know, Chili's restaurants.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to actually own a restaurant, and I found out very
Oh,
quickly I wanted to not own the restaurant, I wanted to own the real estate.
okay, say that again. You didn't want to own the restaurant, the business, because that is not where the money is. The money's in the dirt.
Correct. Just like McDonald's, if you've ever seen the movie, the founder, there McDonald's is a more than a $40 billion real estate company, and they flip burgers just to pay their rent. So I found out very quickly developing Chili's deals that the landlord would do a 10-year ground lease with Chili's and then sell it and make at least 800,000 to a million plus on that one deal by having that 10-year ground lease with a national tenant. And I was hooked. I found a mentor who was also a landlord developing the Chili's, and he took me under his wing, and we were business partners for 4 years. And now I've had my own real estate company here in Dallas for 18 years. I just celebrated.
Well, congratulations.
And like you said, I'm passionate for really helping people, and especially women, investing in commercial real estate and showing them, my first several deals that I've done, OPM, I used other people's millions, as they
Oh,
say.
other people's millions. I love that.
Right. Instead of OPM, other people's money, I'm out there using other people's millions. And I even say today in this year, right now, that everybody's always saying, Pam, I don't have the money to invest in commercial real estate. And then the course that I, started teaching to get the word out there that you do not need the money. You just need to find the deals, and you're driving by them every single day to, the opportunities out there.
I mean, you and I have stumbled across a couple of really good deals, that we're working on. And we like small towns, don't we?
I love small towns. There's so many advantages to working in small town. They roll out the. I learned that from the Chili's days when they would roll out the red carpet when they were having their first family sit down restaurant come to their community, and they're so much easier to work with than when you're in the big metroplex. So small town tech. I mean, we're here in Texas, and there's so much opportunity here.
Now you've written several books. Tell us what books you've written, because I've got two or three books from you, maybe even four. I mean, not only are you an authority in the space, but now you've written about it, you've taught about it, and the ultimate authority figure, our dear friend Sharon Lecter talks about the fact is, your IP is your books, right? When you're an author. So tell us about a few of the books you've written.
Well, I had the opportunity I love going to networking events. And at the time, I saw Zig Ziglar was going to be, granddaughter was going to be interviewing him at an upcoming event. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to see if I can go meet him. I always wanted to. And
Yeah.
I did have the opportunity to meet him in person. And the first thing he did was he put his arm around me and said, have you ever written a book? And I said, no, I haven't. I've thought about it, but I haven't. He said, that will give you the most credibility ever in your career is by, writing a book. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to listen to Mr. Ziegler. And
Right.
my first book was 1 Cent Lemonade to $1 million deals. And I just I feel like I've been working probably like you since, 4 years old, having a lemonade stand. And I just wrote about the 25 different jobs, odd jobs, from selling vacuum cleaners to doing casting auditions for the TV Melrose Place to delivering newspapers. I
Okay,
just
whoa, 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 stop for a second. Tell me about Melrose Place.
Well, I had a crazy idea. I took a break in my commercial real estate. I always had a crazy idea. I wanted to be a famous, actress. So I quit my job when I was working in Maryland on a big project out there, drove across country to seek fame and fortune. And like I said, I always wanted to learn from the best. So I went over to UCLA, and they had an internship to do casting for a national TV show. And it turns out it was for Melrose Place at the time.
Well, I used to love that show.
Yeah, so we did I worked directly. I was the casting assistant for the main casting director. We did all the speaking roles. And at the time, all of the agencies had to drop off their pictures for each speaking role. And then I called all the agents to have their actor come in and do an audition, and did that for a while. And that job taught me all about rejection and um, persistence, which is perfect in the real estate business.
Amen.
I didn't, ca-
Wow.
I didn't end up getting fame and fortune from being an actor, but I met my husband out there. So I guess
But now, were you actually on the show though?
no, I never had the opportunity to be on the show because, in acting, you have to have your SAG card. And in order to have your SAG card, you have to have a speaking role. In order to have a speaking role, you have to have your SAG card. It's an odd thing. And anyways, but I really, really learned a lot about rejection, and also to be prepared. When we had auditions, we were going through a lot of people, and they were all for the speaking roles. And some of them were just, hi, how are you? But not being prepared, you'd be surprised how many people messed up on that line. And the casting director I worked for, she had unbelievable memory. So if you messed up, she would never call you back ever in her career. And I think that kind of goes what I learned in real estate. When you go for a listing for a new property, you have like one opportunity to
You
be
do.
prepared to give it your best shot. Because that person, especially in commercial real estate, I just met with somebody this weekend. They have multiple properties they want to sell. He's retiring. I had one chance to give it my all. And in residential, it's the same way. You have one shot, and that's kind of some of the tips. Anyway, so that was my book on that. And then the other couple books I've done are collaborations on commercial real estate, because a lot of people ask me, how do I get into commercial real estate? I'm like, I might as
Because
well
it
write a.
sounds so sexy, right? Like it, when you look at the big wealth in real estate, like I look at let's just Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not buy houses. Donald Trump buys buildings, right? Our friend Grant Cardone, he does not buy houses. He buys multifamily, 500 doors, right? The big money is in commercial real estate.
I agree.
How
That's
does the average person, Pam, get into commercial real estate?
it's 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 really going to the right events, or I've hosted events after the Ziegler. I ended up doing, a good friend of mine is Julie
Yeah.
Ziegler, and she wanted to get into commercial real estate and start investing, and we actually do events together. But the best thing to do is to find a good commercial broker in your area, or like you and I, how we have partnered up and teamed up together,
Hmm.
trying to find that deal. I've bought stuff as low as, a little over $300,000. Let me tell you about my first deal,
Yeah.
which
Tell
I
us about your first deal. Let's go.
which I think is so. After I left Brinker, I left on good terms, and they showed me a property they wanted, an area in a small town, Copperas Cove, Texas, which is just south of
Amazing.
your area.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting that property under contract, which people don't realize you can do it from anywhere from 500 bucks to, a lot higher. Most of mine are in the 500 to $5,000 range, putting it under contract. And didn't do the Chili's deals because they ended up stopping a lot of their growth at that time, but ended up buying and flipping the property more than a couple $100,000 profit. And that was more than my salary I'd ever made at Chili's corporate. And I was hooked. And that was a great deal. My next deal was a great deal. Buying 5 acres with a couple partners, and we were the build a suit for Walgreens, Chase, and McDonald's. But a lot of times it's just really, I would say for the first few, I can guarantee if you just ask somebody, you could just post it on LinkedIn. I want to start investing in commercial real estate. Who can help me? And people will start reaching out to you.
You
But
know, but you talk about that. I mean, I have found that when I post things like that, you get so many trolls. So how do you find out who to trust? Like when I started doing my due diligence on you, I knew when we first met and I started checking you out, I'm like, okay, she's legit, right? She's got stats, she's got proof, she's authored books, she's, blah, 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 but I'm in that world. How do people reach out? Because there's a lot of scam artists too in real estate, right? So how do people, besides calling you, which they should do, but I think you're only licensed in Texas and Tennessee, right?
right. I'm just a broker in Texas, but I do deals throughout the United States. I just team up with other brokers in different states. So
Yeah.
I have sold,
But how do people vet a broker?
you have to really, it's surprising that, like, when a lot of people call me, they kind of just go by looking at your website or LinkedIn, but you need to really ask them what type of deals that they specialize or do. There's, especially in commercial real estate, I know people that just specialize in golf sites, that all they do is churches, all they do is, retail, restaurants on the leasing side. You really, really want to get that expert who does it every single day. Do they have a good list of buyers? When I just sold a property to one of my recent deals, my buyer wanted us to list it for like a little over 700,000, and by higher, and most brokers would be like, okay, I'm going to list it at 700,000. I told her, let's list it at 995,000, and we ended up selling it for 1 million. And so it just it goes to show you, like you said, hiring the right broker and the right agent, you have to ask them what kind of deals they've done in the past. You don't want somebody selling your $2 million house. If you're used to selling 200,000, it's completely different. game.
Completely different ball game. Completely different ball game. So, you're looking at deals every day. What to you, like what gets you excited about a deal? Every time I talk to you, like, what are you doing? I'm looking at deals. I'm looking at deals. I'm looking at deals. I'm like, well, okay, what are we doing? Tell me, because I mean, and yours and my running joke is you're looking at deals. And I'm like, I got money. Not necessarily I have all the money, but I've got people that have all the money. Right. So Pam's like, I'm finding deals. Lisa finds the money. That's kind of been our dynamic. But what gets you excited about a deal when you look at it, when you're like, oh my God, we got to go?
Nowadays, it's I'm in the past, I've always done the land deals, which it's getting trickier these days. And so now we're looking at vacant bank buildings. A lot of those are all coming up. They're people, as you know, only may go to the bank once or twice a year compared to 10 years ago. I think the average was like 15 times people would visit their bank. So I like something existing that can be redeveloped is prime property. And as you mentioned, we specialize in the single net lease deals with national tenants. So what excites me is just always bringing a new retail or restaurant to a new smaller community. And we're bound to do some deals in your area. I'm coming down there. I've always said that, but your area's hot prime market for new
Yes.
tenants.
And we found hot prime dirt.
So we'll be back. We're going to put that under contract and make that deal happen. No more talk.
Beautiful.
We don't want. We're not the type to talk. We're the
Yeah,
type to take action.
that's it, man. That's it. Okay, so you're out there, and you're looking at deals, and what to you? Because I think this is like a big. And it took a lot for me to get my mind around it, going to several seminars, whatever. What is a good cap rate in today's market? And then explain to us in layman's terms, not in your fancy schmancy broker terms, what a cap rate is and what somebody should be looking for based on today's inflation, interest rates, all of that. That seems to be the $1 million question.
Yeah, the cap rate. You always want to buy high and sell low, which means the cap rate is if you ever see a cap rate, if you're looking on LoopNet or any of the offering memorandums and you see a 7% cap rate, that means the amount of money, instead of making 0% in your bank, you're going to be making 7% on your return on that investment. And that's why a lot of you want higher escalations. But now with interest rates in the commercial that are at 8% or higher, then you don't want a cap rate at 7% because you're already in the negative. It used to be better when the interest rates were 4% and you were making 7% on your money, so you could make 3% on
Yes,
that.
because there's actually a spread. So
Right.
based on rates at 8% today commercially, are there any 10 caps out there? Are there any 9 caps out there? I don't see them. I mean, I look, I don't look at that stuff like I look at residential every day, but I am known to be on LoopNet a few times a week. And I'm like, okay, like, 3 cap, 4 cap, 5 cap. I'm like, why would anybody get into this deal and go underwater?
Right. Yeah. A lot of them are, you have to be a cash buyer or 1031 exchange buyer. And so I do not buy, I don't really, I guess maybe once in my career I've purchased one, but it was at a really high cap when we bought and sold it at a low cap, on how one seller had two buildings next to each other. One was vacant and one had a tenant in it remaining. And that was a partner and we were able to buy both of them. I ended up getting Mattress Firm in the vacant building.
Oh, I remember
And
you told me about that story.
yeah, and that's one where, it worked out really well with her and I. We put no money down. We used her duplexes at the time as collateral for a $1.6 million loan. We sold it for a little
Okay, so
over.
let me ask you about that. That's interesting you just said that. So, with residential real estate, what we call that is cross collateralization. And so you're not able to do that. You can't. You cannot use equity from one from another without cashing it out, taking the cash and putting that into the deal. But you're saying in commercial real estate, like let's say a woman has got her house paid for. You can actually cross collateralize sometimes at the bank, put the title up for the equity to secure the debt. I mean, that can happen.
Correct. Yep.
Oh,
And even if you own, I tell people if they do the single family investment, if they want to pool some of those together and they have enough equity in it, you can use those as the equity down for, to buy that commercial property.
oh,
And
that's interesting.
so for example, we have one bank now that we have under contract, and we found a bank. It's a lot of banks, some of them aren't lending, and then some of them are like, because we have a history with them of paying back, that they're telling us now that if the bank appraises for higher, which we know it will, because we have that good deal, if it appraises higher, this bank will require no money down.
Oh, so it's almost like a rate and term refi at the acquisition time.
Correct. And so
Wow.
it's a so we're looking, so we think, that's a good deal. And this bank is less than most people pay for a house.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realize that. So, or, we're looking also just to flip the property to another credit union and double our money. But that's, I mean, it sounds simple and all that, but it's, you know, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm always out there looking for deals. And the best thing that I can tell people listening to this, and I tell them all the time, is you do not have to have the money, but you're driving by that property. You'll see a vacant bank, and all you have to do is, team up with us and give me a call, and we can work out a deal. I always give, if somebody finds me the deal, I always give them a, 25% ownership in the deal just for finding it.
Wow. Okay. I
Yeah.
love that too. Um, so there just seems to be so much, and even for me, like every time I talk to you, I learn something new about commercial real estate, and it's much higher entry to get into commercial real estate than it is into residential. And so I think it's critical if people are out there and they're looking at buying a small strip center or a piece of dirt where they could potentially do a ground lease or whatever that looks like, that they contact a commercial broker and not try to do it on their own. There's so many people out there like, well, I think I'm going to save the money and not use the commercial broker. I'm like, no, that will cost you millions.
Right.
And it just, you and I did a couple deals for the EDC in Liberty Hill, and just the things I learned about the phase one, the phase two, the this, the that, the da, 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 and it was like, oh my God, like it's just a different game. So I do think that it's intimidating. Now you're working on a course that you're very close to having finished.
Correct. I have had these courses before, but we're restructuring it and have a couple different courses. But it's either, I teach one residential to commercial if you want to learn all about commercial real estate 101. And then the other one is 100% how to find your first deal and hopefully make up to, that $1 million on that one deal.
Okay, so that's possible. You're telling my audience that you can make $1 million on your first commercial deal. Up
I,
to, up to, full disclaimer, but I know you've done it. How? What is that kind of deal? Like, what kind of deal are we talking about?
So, for example, if you buy a piece of land, let's say it's $1 million, you lease it to McDonald's for $100,000, and you sell it at their low 4% cap rate because they're one of the highest, the best. I don't want to confuse, but the lowest cap rate. That 4% is where you make more money versus if you were to sell it at a 6%,
Okay.
and then that's how you're able to make that $1 million plus on that investment. And the tenant is building the building. McDonald's, you're just leasing the land to them. They're
They're
building the
also paying
entire
the
building.
taxes, they're paying the insurance, they're doing the improvements. But you do have to sell to them at the end of the deal, right? At the end of the 10 years. Like obviously you can't say you're out McDonald's, I'm going to sell this to someone else.
No, I mean, at the end of the 10-year deal, you have typically options with McDonald's as a landlord. You can continue to lease that as long as whatever is in your contract with your lease agreement with them, you could have, I mean, you see those McDonald's in those locations for 50 years. So you could be collecting that passive income, that mailbox money, as we
Yeah.
call it, every single month. And then sometimes people, I mean, the best thing to do is hold on to it, have enough cash flow. So if you need, 10,000 a month, maybe need 20,000 a month to live off of. That's what you want to have enough cash every single month so you can go to the beach or mountains or wherever you want to go. You're just collecting that money.
Well, and you and I have, talked about, and so like on a few deals we're looking at, we're looking to put together a syndicate, um, for every $1 million that we need to raise or 2 million, there's 5 people that, or 4 people that put in 250, which, we have that circle of people. 2 people put in a 500,000, 1 person puts in 1 million, 10 people put in 100,000. Like, you don't have to go it alone. It's very easy. And hear me on this, people. It's easy to raise $1 million on a project like this, to the point where I literally, when Pam and I are looking at one deal, I literally have 2 investors fighting to get in, because I said, we're only going to bring in 4. I mean, everyone's got 250. That's what we're going to do. And the 5th one's like, well, what do you mean you're going to cut me out? Why can't we do 5 people at $200,000? We want to be in the game. So money is plentiful. Money's out there. So you
Yeah.
don't have to go it alone. Put together an investment group like what we've done, of people that are willing to put in the money, and then look at some of these projects. Because if it cash flows 100,000 a month and it's a $1
A
million
year. Yeah, a
investment,
year. Yeah, a year.
excuse me, a year, yeah, $1 million investment, I mean, that's more money than you're going to make at the bank.
Right. And it's
What
more
happens
fun.
to the appreciation at the end? Everyone always asks me that question. So in 10 years, let's just say in 10 years, it's a ground lease. Chili's is our tenant. In 10 years, we're kind of done with it. We want to cash out. Who determines that price in 10 years?
As far as what it's worth,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's, it just depends on how much how much term is left on the lease. So
Okay.
if there's only like the more term, the lower cap rate and better amount of money you can sell it at.
Okay.
But let's just say you had a 10-year deal and only 1 year left and no options, your cap rate's going to be a lot higher. You're going to be in that 9%. It's going to depend on the location,
Right.
in case the tenant doesn't renew,
Mm-hmm.
or do something.
Which is why you'll see a McDonald's or a Dairy Queen or something for sale a lot of times, right? Because they decided not to renew their ground lease.
No, I mean, if they're for sale, most of the time it's just an investor selling.
Okay.
It's the landlord selling it. It's not McDonald's. It's not the Dairy
Right.
Queen
Yeah,
selling it.
yeah, which is what I meant. But
Yeah.
basically, they were like, we're done. It's over. Now the landlord,
Right.
you know,
Sometimes you do see those buildings coming back, like you'll see a vacant Kentucky Fried Chicken or any of those, like you
yeah,
mentioned, some of those tenants, and those are some of the best deals to buy, or some of those vacant already. Every coffee shop is looking for a second gen location like that. So if you see any of those Burger King, even if they're operating, you may it they're not going to have a sign for sale outside. You're going to have to find the seller, but those are those hidden opportunities and happen all day long, where you see a redevelopment or conversion. That's where you make a lot of money on that redevelopment process.
yeah. No, it's great. We could talk forever about this. So my final question. Um, there is a $1 million wealth gap between men and women. 50 years old, same job, same income, same education, same everything across the board. He is going to have at least $1 million more. Those are the stats. I didn't make that up. Why do you think that is? Number one. And number two, what can women do today, right now, no matter what their age, what their um, situation is, to help bridge that wealth gap?
I know, I find that very interesting. I would say the number one reason is that women are not asking to be, especially in commercial real estate. I was in one deal and it was the entire office, and because I was working on the deal, I knew about it, and I said, "How do I get in on this deal?" and they're like, here, you can be a limited partner with us. I was the only female in it. And no, they didn't approach any other women in the office. But if you're in any office or anywhere you go, you have got to ask, like you do, how do I start investing in commercial real estate?
Guys, I always ask. I mean, that's kind of how Pam and I got together. I'm always like, I've got money,
Right.
not just me, but my people have money.
Right.
How do we get in the game? How do we get in the deal? Pam, one of my guests said it's because women are not at the table. They're not in
Right.
the same meetings that men are at. They're not
Right.
on the golf course doing deals,
Right. I was just going to say the golf course, attending those events. We have like the cowboy club up here. I attended, somebody invited me to a lunch meeting up there. Do you know, in that entire room, this is where the Dallas Cowboys have their practice field. They have a, lunch area that it's a membership only. I think it's like $300 a month, which is cheap. Do you know, I was the only female in that entire room. And that was just a couple years ago. And you're exactly right. You have got to, start going to the events, you know, asking how to be part of the deal. How men, the biggest thing also, even in my group of women, when I was doing some of my first deals, I would ask the women first in my group, who wants to invest? Every one of them overthink it, afraid of losing money. We have all the fear. We could talk about that all day long, where the men are like, yeah,
Let's
where do I,
go.
yeah, where do I give you my 10,000? I mean, I've been in deals for $10,000. I doubled my money in a short time. I mean, they can be that low all the way up to more. But I mean, they do not ask, you know, I just have a quick story because it
They
always,
don't ask permission, but now tell us your story.
I mean, it just reminds me of a time being on vacation. I was watching this family. Here comes the mom and daughter. They were on bikes. The mom and daughter, got off the bike, walked it down the steps. Here comes the dad and the son. They didn't even look what was on the other side. They both went flying across the stairs and landed at the bottom and had like the best time. And so that kind of reminds me of the difference of, men and women, the way we're brought up of being overcautious. I
Mhm.
would say stop being overcautious. You're going to be losing. That's why there's $1 million gap, is because they're sitting on the sidelines, not playing Monopoly. Win, lose, be like the Donald Trump. Go out there and take the chances. You're gonna you're going to
America's got
win. And
bankruptcy for a reason, right? I mean, all the big boys have filed bankruptcy at least once. It's like a badge of honor. Nothing
right.
that
I
I
mean,
want to do, but you know,
right. I mean, I was always taught growing up that debt is bad. That's what I learned for a lot of my career. And until I'm like, debt can be good when your tenants are paying off your debt and you're building equity and your real estate's, going up in higher price. And so it's a lot of it is just the way we're taught. But we have got to get in the game. And by you doing this podcast and sharing and talking to people and wanting to help women, I am just excited. Now is best time ever.
well, I'm excited that you and I are business partners. I'm excited for what we're going to create together, some of the deals we're doing together. And Pam, how do people find you? How do they follow you?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm just under Pamela Goodwin. Send me an email at pam@pamgoodwin.com. I'll even give you my cell phone number, 214-929-9013. Send me a text and let's connect.
Awesome. Thank you, Pam. God, I've got to pay attention, but I want to take notes. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to have this thing transcribed, and then I'm going to know everything I need to know. Thanks again.